Hey guys, Kev here, and I want to do a quick video talking about what bearings should you put in your Oz Machine Company Roosevelt. Well, I just had a question from somebody on Instagram. Shout out to you, bro. I believe his name was Matthew. He said he just won his first Oz Machine Company lotto, and he's like me, and he loves to try different bearings in knives, which there's a lot of us out there who love that kind of thing. It's fun to try to get the best action out of the knife you can. To keep it very short for you, if you came here for the answer to this question, it is don't even try. Just stick with the stock bearings. Daniel puts Delrin bearings in the Rosies, and they are, in my opinion, the best option for the Rosie. Normally, I love Skiff bearings. They're always the best, but the Delrins just seem to work the best in here. And my guess is, because this is sort of a semi-custom knife, he has everything set up machining-wise, calibration-wise, set up for the Delrin bearings. So they just work the best with this platform. So real quick, I'll show you what I'm talking about. There are different types of bearings. These are Skiff bearings. Now, there's all different kinds of Skiff bearings. The ones in this knife are 1/4" 1/16 bearings. I'll see if I have the exact set. Not that it matters, but let's see if I can find a set. That's 6mm. That's a new set, which is awesome that we have those now. Here we go. All right, so yes, I have a lot of bearings. And they're mostly all Skiffs at this point because they're the ones I try to put in everything. So if you were to get bearings for this knife, if you wanted Skiffs, you would get 1/4" 1/16 13 ball bearings, and those would fit in here perfectly. And what you can see is this is a phosphor bronze cage, and then it has ceramic balls. Delrin bearings, which is what is in this knife, look like this. All right, these are Delrin bearings. I believe these are actually the right size. These right here, sorry, these bigger ones are 6mm right here. So these are going to be your Delrin bearings, and I haven't counted the balls. Let's see if we can see a difference. Yeah, I would venture to guess there's actually probably an extra ball in here. The Skiffs, there might be 13 instead of 12 on this. If I sit here and try to count, I'm going to lose my spot, and then I'm going to look like an idiot, but I'll try. So not counting the one right by my or let's start right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? No, I think it was just 10. So you actually have 3 more balls on the Skiffs. If I'm not mistaken, there's 3 more balls in here, which is pretty impressive. Let's see if I got that right. Let's try it one more time, guys. Sorry, I know. Here we go. Rant time. But yeah, you can see the gap between the balls is bigger, right? So let's start with that one right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10, and then you have 13 on this because it says 13. So you actually get 3 extra balls. I mean, that's a pretty big number. So that is gonna normally it would give you smoother, maybe better action. But I've tried all these in the Rosie, and I've found that the Delrins just work the best. You can see it drops, and then it's a smooth shake. The newer ones may even drop shut all the way, and there's no side to side of any kind, and it's doing that. I just didn't see any benefit, and honestly, I thought they were worse with the Skiff bearings. So, again, my recommendation is Delrin. There's also something called taco bearings. That's what these are. And essentially, the reason they're called taco bearings is because you see that washer in there. It's actually a super thin washer. And you put that on the other side. So, like, you would have your scale here. Then you would put one of these tiny washers in. Then you would put the bearing in. And then the other side of the bearing would run against the blade. It's a unique sort of system. It's a little bit hit or miss, to be honest, because the tolerances aren't that great with these washers. I don't think they're all cut the same way. But the one benefit to taco bearings in the Rosie is the way Daniel runs these is there's no steel washer. So there's normally on a knife with titanium scales, you'll have a steel washer, right? You'll have your titanium scale, then you'll have a steel washer, then your bearing, then your blade, right? Then another bearing, another steel washer, and then your other titanium scale. And what that does is it makes it so that the ceramic balls on the bearing are not running on a track on titanium. Because ceramic is a lot harder than titanium, it's not necessarily harder than a hardened steel washer. So it's sort of a longevity thing for your knife. But I don't know. I've never heard of it as a concern for the Rosie, and that's how he's always done it. So it's really the only reason, though, to put taco bearings in the Rosie is if you're really worried, if you're one of those people that's really worried about putting ceramic on titanium, you could put taco bearings in there. And I did run these for a while in the Rosie. I've run all of these. And they worked. They worked pretty well. The action was actually pretty good. But I actually sent this knife to Daniel over at Oz Machine Company to tune up at one point. Because this is a earlier one. This is number 158, I believe. Yeah. And mine was dialed with a really strong detent. Not really strong, but a stronger detent. And it didn't quite drop like this. You see that action? I mean, that's incredible how it drops. Swings down, and then it's just zip. Some of the newer ones will almost drop shut. But this one had a lot stronger detent than it does now. And I sent it to him to kind of give me an in-between. So now the detent is just a little bit lighter than it was. It's not light, though. And it's basically all about the lock bar pressure. Anyway, when I did that, I told him about the taco bearings, because I thought he might be interested in that, considering he had them running on titanium. And he looked at it and he said, yeah, dude, I actually thought at first that you were right and the taco bearings were better. And I was like, oh, really? And he said, yeah, but then I kind of held them up to the frame and everything. And he sent me a picture. He had the Delrin bearing sitting onto the blade, right? And then he sent me a picture of the taco bearing sitting on the blade. And it wasn't sitting flush. There was a little bit of gappage around the bearing. So it just wasn't perfect tolerance, which is what I was saying can be an issue with these. Also, the balls will come out of the holes sometimes. It's just a pain. I really don't think taco bearings are that good of a quality product, but they have a purpose when it comes to, you know, not wanting to run on titanium if you care. The only other bearings that I've tried are these are Gillian bearings. These are salt and pepper bearings from Gillian. And essentially, salt and pepper just means there's white and black ceramic. I used to love Gillian bearings, but then I started having issues with them seizing up. Over time, the bearings would get kind of seized in place and they wouldn't roll anymore, and that can obviously hinder your action. So then you got to take your knife apart and you got to like roll it in alcohol and free it up, and it just became a pain. And between them and Skiffs, I didn't really notice that big of a difference. Sometimes on some knives, I would have better action with the Gillian than the Skiff. But 9 out of 10 times, it was either equal or the Skiff was better. So I ended up just kind of putting Gillians to the side. I used to rave about them if you watch my older videos, and they are good. But I just kind of moved on to just going with Skiffs because I never have issues with them seizing up, ever. And you usually get more balls and things like that. But the salt and pepper is cool. And I did try those in here, and they were pretty good. So there's really not a bad option. But my point with this video is there's really no reason to switch from the Delrins. they already come with fantastic stock bearings. The reason you want to swap bearings out on a knife, there's really two reasons, for me anyway. I love the lateral strength you get from a Skiff bearing. And a lot of that comes from having the extra balls. They usually have more balls than stock bearings, which means you have more surface area covered. The phosphor bronze cage usually, in my opinion, is better than what you get stock, because usually what you get is this. I have a bag of just bearings I've taken out of knives, and you usually get these just brass fucking caged bearings, and you can see on the back end of them, it's just a stamped cage. So that's the front and that's the back. And it's not the same on both sides. It just, to me, makes it to where they're not as good as having a solid cage on both sides. So that, for me, is reason number one to swap bearings. Just the strength. Reason two is if you have these steel bearings. Sometimes they come with steel bearings, which is just... I mean, I can't believe people ship knives with steel cage steel bearings in this day and age. And you'll get brass cage steel bearings. Like, I don't know. And then the third reason would be, and this is usually more of an afterthought for me, is the action. You want to get a more drop shut knife or something like that. A lot of people think that we want Skiff bearings and everything because we're all about having it drop shut. That's not really what it's about. For us, or for a lot of us that are into Skiffs, it's about the lateral strength. It's about that pivot strength. Usually it just makes the knife feel better, honestly. And it's because of the extra balls and the solid cage. It just gives it a better feel. So anyway, those are the reasons why you would switch. And again, most knives come with these shit bearings. Well, this knife comes with fantastic bearings in it. So there is really no reason to try to switch it out. So I just thought, because there have been a lot of Rosies sold in the last few months since I've done any video about the knife. You know, it's been a while since I've done a video about the Rosie because, you know, I've just had it for a long time. I got it about a year ago at this point. And I just figured there's a lot of new owners, a lot of new Rosies, and maybe there's some people out there wondering if they should be swapping their bearings. One other thing I want to note is if you can go check my older videos. I've taken this knife apart a few times, I think, on camera. It's a very simple process. You should not be afraid to take this knife apart. Now, obviously, you should know what you're doing. Don't go in blind if you're not somebody who knows anything about taking a knife apart. I don't want to be responsible for telling you to take it apart, but if you have any sort of knowledge about taking knives apart and you're thinking about taking this apart, it's not hard. You just take this out and you take these two body screws out. It comes apart. It's very simple. This back spacer is actually kind of like locked into the other scale, I believe, because the clip is mounted through there. So it just is like this scale comes off and you're good to go. You might need two drivers, two T15s, because it's a spinning pivot. Usually if you just put pressure on this side and hold the blade open at 90, you'll be able to get this one out unless it's super Loctited. But if it came from factory, you shouldn't have an issue. And then when you put it back together, make sure you put a tiny bit of Loctite on the pivot and tighten it down. And then these two are T8 and they come right out. And the knife goes back together so easily. It really is just functional art and just one of the best designs and knives I think that is out there currently. You know, I haven't carried it much lately just because I have so much stuff coming through, but it's just not, it's not leaving the collection. I had a phase where I was like trying to buy 3 of them, and I had 2, and I ended up selling one because I don't even carry the one, so it was kind of silly. You can see I still have a mirror edge on here from like factory, basically. I've used it, but just not like crazy. And honestly, the blade shape is just not my style blade shape. It's a small enough knife that I can get to that tip for things, but it's kind of a stubby tip. So it's not like the perfect knife for me, but it's such a good knife that you know, there's no way I'm just gonna like let it go or something like that. And I overpaid for this, but I got the version that I would probably build. You know, so anyway, I just wanted to talk about this for a second there, which turned into 15 minutes. So let me know if you guys have any questions about the Rosie. If you're a new Rosie owner, congrats. I haven't even looked at the lottos in the last, like, since Blade Show. I haven't even cared at all and followed Rosie or Oz Machine Company. So for me, the hype is kind of over, but the knife itself is still one of the best. And Daniel Osborne is an awesome dude. I actually got to meet him at Blade Show. Ran into him in the elevator at my hotel the one night this year at Blade Show, which was really cool. He actually recognized me, which was pretty unique and cool. And he's a good dude. And this knife, man, the fact that it's Zfinite steel, so it's essentially a rust-proof knife for me. It helps a lot in terms of me personally having rusting issues. Yeah. So anyway, if you guys have any questions about the Rosie, let me know. I'm happy to talk about it. And absolutely fantastic knife. Love it. And I love you guys. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will catch you later.